Alright, here's the video for those who are in my block 8, which I was not able to start our meeting yesterday, or those who were absent during our final prep for the EOC. On your screen right now, we have the Florida Statewide Assessments website, and I'll post a link to this exact page on Google Classroom, as well as on EDSB, and in the description. This is our EOC practice test. This is what it's going to look like when you sit down for the actual exam week. And there's a couple things that I want from you to show me that you're able to successfully navigate, find, and use all of the resources available to you during the test. So if you come into your classwork, it says upload a screenshot of the first question, the formula sheet, and the calculator. Then I'm going to walk you through it and some other options when setting up for your EOC. Today, since this is a practice test, you want to use guest user and guest session on. Turn these off, it's going to ask for a specific code for you. Don't use it right now. This is what we'll use on the day of the actual test. The purpose of this practice test is to enable users to become familiar with the functionality and item types that students will encounter in this test delivery system. The tests are not intended to guide classroom instruction. That just means I should not look at these to say, oh, this is what the EOC looks like. Content or question-wise, that's what I need to teach. There's a lot of behind the scenes for that. This is just saying they're relevant, they're related to geometry, but don't think that they're necessarily going to be on the actual EOC. For more information about taking the practice test, please access the practice test guides here, which is actually where we're at for you. Login information is not required for the practice test. That's why we don't need to put any information in above. Leave it set to guest mode. Once you've read that, which I've read for you, go ahead and hit sign in. And it's going to ask you for your grade level and what test you want to practice. Now, the nice thing about the way this is set up is it doesn't really matter if you pick 9, 10, 11, 12. You'll still get all of the high school options since we take them all at times. So since this is technically a sophomore class, I will go ahead and pick grade 10. And then we'll scroll down, we'll pass reading, writing, and we're in our end of course assessment area. I'm going to pick Start Geometry EOC Practice Test. Now you have a list of 2 accommodations, text-to-speech and masking. Let's leave those off unless you know that through student services you have one of these accommodations, that our testing administrator has reached out to you about these accommodations, and that you know you'll be using these accommodations. 2 are for students who, like I said, the testing coordinator has reached out to, and who already know if you'll have either of these accommodations. Where everyone will be looking at is our accessibility setting. My eyes aren't the best, so I'm going to go ahead and move this up to 1.5, and you can see right away everything changes along 3 times, a bit much. But I like 1.5 versus 1. That's a personal preference, but it just fits the screen better. My diagrams are going to show up better. I don't have to worry about, like when we're doing the Savas homework, asking it to pop out and stuff. Now here, I don't know if it's nerves or what, but there's always a couple people who like to play with these, pick, wild stuff, and that's fine. If it helps you see, go for it. Like this one, I personally can't see very well. There is one that I like, I think. I don't see them. Definitely not. Well, anyways, there's like a dark mode in here. There it is, white text on black. A lot of people use night mode or dark mode or whatever UI theme. That's one. This is all about just making it easier on your eyes, whatever you prefer. And then this one I'm going to caution, it's always fun to do this, right? And everyone laughs when you get into the test, though, it gets a little frustrating because this thing's so big, but the actual point in which you're clicking on is exactly the same. So sometimes you end up misclicking quite frequently. I have this, what I'll call a novelty size one. Now, if this is a size you normally use, you won't have the problems like I do clicking, and that is fine, right? Just make sure when you pick these settings, this is what you want to take on the test for the next 90 minutes minimum. Okay, but set it up nice the way you want it. Once you've picked everything, hit select. And we have the choice to review our test settings, which is where we just were. There's a help guide that is available at any time during the test. So I'm just going to hit begin test now. And we'll see question number 1. Loads. This will actually be the first thing you do. Here now, it feels like it's a little too zoomed in. So I can zoom out just a little bit, but I still have that modifier on there if I had selected it. Now there's some stuff here. Here's our formula sheet. If you click that, that'll be your second screenshot. Of course, question number 1 will be your first screenshot. I'm not going to click this because I want you to navigate in here and get a picture of it. There is this line reader tool, which is nice because if you have been sitting in my class for a whole school year now, and you'll notice a lot of times I'll read and I'll get to here, I'll start looking, and then I'll miss some other very important pieces. I like the line reader tool because it tells me, hey, focus on this one line, read the whole thing, then go look at the problem if you want to, or go ahead and look. There's only 2 more things to read. Read the whole thing, turn the line reader off, and then jump into the problem. When I first saw this, I was a little cynical, but as I've had more time to play with it, I realized I actually do better when I have this up and I'm able to look. So obviously I'm not going to give you an answer, so I'm just going to put this in as my answer so that I can hit next question, and then we can read this one. I see a cone, cylinder. I don't see a pyramid. Now I'm going to have a little bit of a question here. Would I assume that this base is a rectangular prism? Right? It definitely looks 3-dimensional. I would assume it's the foundation of these turrets, but I'm not sure if I want to go so far as to say rectangular prism yet. I'm going to look at the other questions. I'll answer them, and I'm going to come up here. I'm going to mark this one for review. I know that if I were sitting for this test, I would spend so much time thinking about this that I may lose track of time. So I want to make sure I come back to this one if I have time. And then I say, well, there's a lot of options here. Maybe I'm not going to remember what I'm coming back for. I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to open the notepad. I'm going to make myself a little note. Question number 2, part 1, is there a rec prism? Now I'm going to hit save and close. And I can go on to question number 3 now. I can do this. 2x plus 120 is equal to 4x, solve for x, get an answer, and then I have this new input box. I didn't have, well, maybe I did have it before, but I just went ahead and typed it in. Let's say I don't want to type it in. Let's say I want to just put in 8.9. I'm able to click here. This navigates back and forth on where I'm going to have my input for my next input. And this is an undo button, this is a redo button, and this is delete to the left button. Maybe I put 8.9 and I wanted 8. And now I can move on. I look at this one and I say, I know right away I always have trouble with graphs. Let me at least look at the problem. I'm going to do my line reading tool. I'm going to read each part. And I notice here, they were nice enough to give me some options. So what that is telling me is if I see these light green boxes, I can click on them and it's going to give me my answer choices. I'm going to go, I haven't read the question, obviously, you saw fast. I can tell that there's no x equals 4 on here. It's asking for a line. Oh, it is. So we'll have to figure all that out after I actually read the question. But watch what happens when I don't finish answering a question. I get a warning. Now, warning says you have not entered a complete response to one or more items. Click yes to proceed. Now, to me, that's a little bit dangerous. That's where I'm going to make mistakes. That's where I'm going to have unanswered questions on the EOC, because if I come up here, I can review everything I've done. Here you can see 1 has no warning, right? 2 has a flag, and it says this symbol indicates items you have marked for review. So that's nice. That means I've already said to myself, I want to come back to this one. 3 has no warning. Now let's look at 4. There's a triangle, and that means there's unanswered items. That's the question I was just on, right? See, now it's telling me on 5 you haven't answered a question. Now I can see here, oh, I did in fact miss questions. Make sure you're using these. Now something funny happens. I've only gone as far as question 5. So it goes ahead and loads question 6. If I go to question 6 without seeing 7, it'll go ahead and populate 7 there. Yeah, I keep getting these warnings. It's fine. This is up to you guys to answer. This is your final review. What I'm going to do now is point out that there's never been a calculator button on screen yet. That's because your EOC is in 2 parts, a non-calculator portion and a calculator portion. This is session 1, and in this test, session 1 does not get a calculator. I need to progress forward session 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, I don't know if this system of only being able to see 1 question ahead is designed so that we don't speed the test or skip around and try and answer the easiest ones first without this warning. I don't know what it is, but I kind of like that it does help you slow down while you're taking the test. But what I need to do is get to part 2 so I can show you what to click for your final screenshot. There's 19 questions in this section, so we're almost there. And I'm getting a warning on my laptop that I am overloading codec. Or the encoder, so let's see what this video looks like. Here's a great question. I'll go ahead and say this one. I'm going to imagine it around. Just keep in mind, if something is rotating same distance from a line, it'll never have turns like this. It'll always be. Also pay attention to the direction of rotation. Or I can never pass up those. We're almost there, guys. Got 1. It's going to give us a warning. Not this warning, a new warning. That new warning is basically going to say, we're at the end of session 1. Sure. So as you have reached the end of this session, click on a question number to review it. After completing the session, click the bottom of the screen. If you're logged in as a guest, click the next one. So now I can see here, I still have number 2 flagged, which is a pretty good indicator that I probably haven't returned to it and finished answering it or made that final decision. So I can click on that now and head over to number 2, and also still do that from my items section. Once I'm done, I can re-enter this screen by clicking on items and hit review. And then I can see from 4 to 19, I didn't answer anything. Now, this is just to kind of get you used to the system. On the day of the EOC, answer every question, right? It's not punitive for trying. So 1 and 3 are what I want to see across the board here, no warnings. So I'm going to go into my next session, however. Now here, you'll be read a script and you'll get explicit directions on what to do before entering session 2. Since this is a practice test, we don't really have to worry about that as much. This video is... So now we're in session 2, and now I have this calculator button. And if I click calculator, it's going to pop up right down here. And that's going to be your 3rd screenshot. So if you followed along, you decide to take a screenshot of the first question while I had it up, that's fine, but you do have to come in and get a screenshot of the formula sheet and the calculator, and that's by clicking here and here.